Thank you so much for joining us for MAPS Rebooted, what you need to know now, today. Everything we're going to talk about is current as of today, February 10th, but I'll caveat that the government can change everything we talk about whenever they desire. So we'll see kind of where MAPS goes in the next couple of days or months. Here is your path to the star. I hope you found it and you didn't hit any of our compliance mines or any of the PPQs, and you have a great submission. And that's our goal here today, is to help you feel confident in your submission as you navigate, oh, my dog says hi, the maze of your MAP submission. And a little bit about me, besides the fact that I have a dog who's viciously protecting my home. Thank you for joining us here at Trident and for checking in with us as you learn more about what's going on in the federal government and how to work those proposals. Trident was established in 2008. We have roots in the military. A lot of us are military spouses or prior veterans. So our core values are really focused on providing you that military level professionalism, while incorporating teamwork and client-centric excellence. We own our outcome, so anytime we help you, we want your business to thrive as you achieve your business development goals. We're committed to creating flexible and portable job opportunities for reservists, veterans, and spouses in active duty military all over the world. Our founder is a prior Navy vet as well, so we're a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. We hope to help you and your business position for and win more government contracts. And we want to help train you so that you feel more confident every time you hit submit. Who am I? I'm Kiley Stewart. I'm a capture and proposal manager and have been doing this for 7 years. I'm a 2012 Naval Academy graduate where I used to drive ships. I'm also reasonably certain that my sourdough starter is dead. Very dead. And so I want you to know that you too can fail at things that you go after, but we're going to make sure that you succeed at MAPS, because it's much easier than sourdough is apparently. And also, if you have sourdough tips, I'd love to hear them. So please share. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about what MAPS is. We're going to talk about a timeline, and that's my most nebulous section of our brief today. So we'll see what that looks like. We're also going to talk about the submission requirements. There's been some changes since last time we spoke about MAPS, and we'll go into a deep dive into that past performance score evaluation, as well as some next steps you can take while we're waiting for the next update. So MAPS, hopefully you generally have an idea. This is the marketplace for acquisition of professional services. So this is an Army contract that is essentially the consolidation of the Information Technology Enterprise Solutions 3 services contract, that's IDIS 3S, and the Responsive Strategic Sourcing for Services, that's RS3. So those two contracts were due to expire, and they decided to consolidate them because they had a similar service offering, and they created the Marketplace for Acquisition of Professional Services, MAPS. But essentially what you will be doing on this contract is providing Army customers and other agencies with that knowledge-based support services to help support the Army enterprise IT structure. We anticipate 10 years of contract. There has potential for an on-ramp, but there is for sure off-ramping. And this is a scorecard, which if you've joined us before, you know that I favor scorecards. It's a strict compliance scorecard. And so you either have it or you don't. And we'll talk about some things you may want to consider as you're pursuing this contract, because this may not be the opportunity for your team, and that's okay. And I'm glad that you're joining us, even if it ends up not being the opportunity for you, because this contract and many of the other large contract vehicles can give you an idea of things that may help your company prepare and compete more effectively in other government opportunities. And so it may be worth looking at what's on this scorecard, because it's what the government is prioritizing and what they're expecting small businesses and companies to have as they're competing in these larger opportunities. Here's just a summation. We recently received updated NICS codes for the 5 domains. Those were previously unknown. And we've gotten rid of our RFP release dates. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So these 5 domains, you can propose on this contract into as many of the 5 domains as you'd like. So you can propose within technical services, management and advisory, RDT&E, emerging IT services, and foundational IT services. And let's talk a little bit about some of the proposal components. We'll just briefly go over this, and then we'll come back to it in a little bit later. You'll submit 5 to 6 volumes. So if you're a large business, you have to submit that 6th volume, that small business subcontracting plan. But otherwise, it really just comes down to your gate criteria. Right now, they have 3 different categories for businesses: large businesses, small businesses, and what they've defined as commercial sector vendors. And so this is a really cool thing that MAPS has included with their most recent update. And it allows for companies who don't have government experience, who have commercial contracts. This is the first time I've seen this in one of these larger scale contracts, and I'm pretty excited about what this will look like. Excuse me, because it really gives an opportunity for those information technology companies who haven't contracted with the federal government to really get into this. Update 5 made a comment that they may look at something called an emerging large business category. That's definitely something that we're going to have to keep an eye on because it may affect how they divide up their award intentions. So we'll take a look at that next, because this may end up being a pretty strict or small awardee pool, depending on how companies bid and what companies bid on. There's a little bit of ambiguity in terms of how many awards you can get or what would restrict somebody from another award. But essentially, the government has said that they would award 50 contracts per domain. They'll break that up, as you'll see on this slide, into 15 large business awards, 25 small business awards, and 10 commercial sector vendor awards. So again, if we introduce that emerging large business category, that would eat into something in this pie. Within that small business award section, they're going to prioritize general small business, women-owned small business, service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, hub zone. That one is 8A, and then I think it's off the top of my head, I'm not going to remember SDV, but there you go, SDV businesses as well. And so you'll see that, if you have a set-aside category, you may be able to prioritize your submission amongst other small businesses, which may give you an advantage. But again, they haven't been totally clear on how that prioritization will work, and if you have multiple set-asides, how you would submit for that. So we do have some questions about that. One of the things to consider as you're thinking about working on MAPS is whether or not this is a good contract for you in the actual execution of the contract. They have announced that, and have always been very, very clear, that they expect you to participate in task order competition. And one of the challenges that they had with IDIS 3 and RS 3 was a lack of competition at the task order level. They would release task orders and then nobody would bid on them, or they would release task orders and one person would bid on it, or something like that. And so what they're trying to do is ensure competition at the task order level to make sure that their customers and clients receive the support that they need from industry. And so from the first day of the second year, if you have a bid rate of less than 50%, you risk being off-ramped off of MAPS. Similarly, after the first calendar year, if you have any task order that has cost overrun, any unsatisfactory CPARs, a vacancy rate of 10% more, time to fill over 60 days, or you're not meeting your small business participation goals, you'll also be off-ramped. And again, failure to complete CMMC on the schedule that you proposed will also off-ramp you. And so they really want companies that are active, that are willing to engage with the Army and willing to participate on this contract. So let's guess about the timeline a little bit. This is where we used to be when we gave this presentation last year. But the timeline has obviously changed because they have not awarded this in November of last year. So you were here a couple of weeks ago. When they released update 4, they said they were going to have submission due in March of 2025 with an award for June 2026. And you guys gave so much industry feedback and provided so many comments on the draft that now we are here. We expect a draft to come sometime at the end of this quarter, so in April or June. of this year, with maybe, this is a best guess, July, September RFP with an August, October submission. And I do think that their intent would be to award within this calendar year. So I could see them trying to award in November, December, simply because their award process is pretty quick with the scorecard. This is ambitious. I could see this going into 2027 if they aren't quick about turning around that draft RFP and then that final RFP after that. So submission requirements, the meat and potatoes of this opportunity. Let's take a look at this. This is, again, like we said, a scorecard. So the initial portion of that scorecard is the gate criteria. You have it or you don't. Overall, you'll submit 5 attachments for your submission, and they have beautifully provided for you those attachments. So volume 1 is attachment 1, volume 2 is attachment 2, and so forth. All of these things will go into your submission on the submission portal. The one that we don't know much about yet, because they haven't released anything, is that attachment 5, which is the cost volume. For your past performance volume, that's where all of your project information will come from. You can submit up to 15 projects. That's 3 qualifying projects per domain. And so you would have attachment 1, 2, 3, multiple attachment 4s, and then attachment 5. And again, if you're a large business, you're submitting that small business subcontracting plan. Their evaluation process, like I said, is pretty organized. So they're going to go through an initial ranking based on your self-score. And then they're going to take a look at that in phase 2, and they're either going to agree with you or they're going to take points away. They do have a great sentence in the RFP that says they will not adjust you upward. They will only adjust you downward during that phase 2 assessment. After that, they're going to rack and stack all of the offers before they move to phase 4 for the final review and award. So what does this mean for you? This information, this evaluation process, paired with the number of intended awardees and the way that they intend to award should really make you consider your bid or no bid decision when you're considering maps. If you score yourself on that self-score and you don't come close to the total maximum point value, maybe this isn't a good opportunity for you right now, and maybe we can find some task orders once maps comes out that you can build your past performance experience here. And we want to make sure that, or it is likely that having a higher score on this scorecard evaluation will be to your advantage, and the competition will likely be pretty fierce. So when you're doing your self-score, try to be as harsh as you can as you're looking at things to make sure that you're really grading yourself based on what your documentation is showing rather than what you think your documentation is showing. The thing that will eliminate you or not eliminate you is this gate criteria. You either have it or you don't, and it's based on the category that you're competing in. Every single person who's submitting will need to have that CMMC final level 2 self-certification. You can have it scheduled, but you will have to complete it based on the schedule that you provide them. But that's a requirement, and that's going to be a requirement across the government. And so if that's not on your list of things to do this year, it should be, and it should move probably closer to the top. Besides that, if you're a small or large business who has done business with the government, you'll need a secret facility clearance. You also need that ISO 9001, either the 215 or the 213. And then you'll need quality past performance. So they will pull the CPARs from all 5 NICS codes identified on this. So those NICS codes that we saw on that table in the first slide. And they will make sure that you don't have more than 5% CPARs below marginal, or you have no more than 5 rated below marginal if you're a small business. If you're a small business, you'll need to provide some sort of small business certification. If you're large, you'll provide your adequate accounting system and adequate purchasing system. If you are a commercial sector vendor, those specifics required for your commercial sector vendor confirmation are included within the RFP, but you will also have to have that CMMC level 2. You also need to be registered in SAM so that you can compete. So the scorecard itself, when we're talking about qualifying projects, we're talking about a single contract, whether it's prime or commercial, a single task order, or an other transaction authority. But right now, we're not talking about subcontracts. That's one of the things they addressed in their update 5, that maybe they would consider allowing subcontract work as a qualifying project. But right now on their draft RFP, that's not the case. These projects have to have a 2.5 minimum total value and 1 year of completed performance. They will need to be completed within the last 4 years. And the assigned NICs must be the same as the domain-specific NICs or the technical capabilities. Further, you'll provide, when you're actually submitting your contract or your qualifying project information, you'll provide that attachment for a PWS or statement of work that provides that evidence and a copy of the agreement. If you don't have any CPARs, you'll also provide attachment number 6, which is that past performance qualification that they just verify that you are a quality vendor. Now, if we look at the scorecard, it can get overwhelming very quickly, but we're going to try to break it down bit by bit so you can understand the components. So the first section is the additional points that you can receive for having specific government approved systems, agreements, or certifications. So if you have approved rates, purchasing, estimating, property management, earned value management systems, then you can get extra points. If you have a top secret facility clearance versus a secret, you get extra points. And then there's a point differentiation between somebody who has scheduled their CMMC level 2 and somebody who has an active and approved CMMC level 2. Another certification that they value is that ISO 27701 2022 certification. So if you have those, that can be additional points as well. This is different from the gate criteria. So I'm going to drop us back a little bit here to this slide and show you that these are the gate criteria and these are additional points you can receive. And so on the scorecard itself, the gate criteria are on the upper portion of the scorecard that they provide, and then it transitions into the systems, agreements, and certifications. And so it can get a little confusing in the way that the scorecard itself is broken down just because it's all consolidated into one. But you will have to clear the gate criteria before you can even look at getting additional points on your scorecard. Then we get into some of them, I don't know, they're not really more nebulous because recency is either it's recent or it's not. But some of the other ones are a little bit more complicated. Recency. If your qualifying project has either a period of performance in date within the last 2 years or a full year performance completed, can affect how many points you receive for that qualifying project. Additionally, relevancy matters. You will have to provide a percentage of technical capabilities under the domain that you're proposing against. So what does that mean? What are the technical capabilities? Here is an eye chart for you of all of the technical capabilities. They're broken out by those 5 domains. And then they have relevant NICs. So that first listing of relevant NICs codes are the required NICs, and underneath that are others that may also apply or that may have work of a similar scope. But you would have to show a percentage of the technical capabilities within that. And so let me find an easy one to do. So let's do RDT and E. If you had no, I'm really bad at math. Let's do emerging IT domain. So if you had intelligent automation and infrastructure services platforms and infrastructure cloud services, you would have 20% of the 10 total options within the emerging IT domain. And so based on that, you get a certain point value added to your scorecard. And you would do that for every single project. You would identify those on attachment 4 and then likely provide evidentiary support in your statement of work of that work so that you could claim those points. NICS alignment, you receive extra points if that qualifying project is specifically aligned to that domain. That's always an easy, good thing. And then performance quality. This is a obviously, they don't want performance under marginal, but they will give you up to 7,000 points for exceptional performance. I could see people having a lot of questions about this from the Q&A. just because a lot of contracting officers don't evaluate higher than satisfactory on principle, or they just don't fill it out. So I'd be curious kind of what the performance quality point evaluation looks like in the final. So that's something to keep in your head as you're looking through it. Dollar value, if it's greater than 50 million, they'll give you more points. If it's less than 25 million, that's kind of the standard. Vacancy rate. This one and the next one are two of the categories that are a little bit peculiar. And we'll talk about overall how this affects it. You'll calculate your vacancy rate based on the number of vacant positions at the end of the last full year of performance divided by the number of positions proposed. There's 30,000 points possible over your 3 qualifying projects for just vacancy rate. So this is a very important category for them, and they're really prioritizing that. They're also prioritizing time to fill rate. So from the date of offer acceptance minus the date that the vacancy is opened, or the average across multiple vacancies will give you your time to fill rate. Again, there's 21,000 points possible for this. So this is the maximum point values for all of these scorecard elements. And you'll notice here, I have a laser pointer I discovered this time, that you get 30,000 points for vacancy rate and 21,000 points for time to fill and 21,000 points for performance quality. You get 3,000 points for NICS alignment and 3,000 points for recency. So the government really cares about your vacancy rate, the time to fill, and your performance quality. And you can learn a lot about what they're trying to tell us just from that point spread, that they really care that you will keep the billets full, you will do the work, and if the billets have to change, you will fill it really fast so that there's no gap in mission coverage. They also want people who are performing quality. They really want to create a marketplace for vendors who are performing really well for their clients. Makes sense. So again, if we come back to this evaluation process, now that we've broken down the scorecard, we really want to think about where you're going to break out amongst competition. Is your score going to elevate you? Do you have past performance that is only rated as satisfactory? That's still quality work, but maybe that's not going to bring your self-score up high enough for you to be really competitive for this in an environment where there's only 50 awards per domain. So think about this phase, think about the evaluation process as you're deciding whether or not this is a good opportunity for your company. Next steps, we are fine. We're doing a 30-minute webinar today, guys. Okay, let's do it. What do we do next? Really, it's getting organized now. You will be able to assess based on the projects you have right now, whether this may be a good opportunity for you or not. I wouldn't necessarily count yourself out until we see one more update, especially if they're debating that subcontracting, allowing subcontracts, but gathering those project records, gathering that documentation is always the right answer when we're in a period of lulling between opportunities. We've got a couple of ways that you can do that. We've got a project tracker. I would actually, my coworker is probably going to roll her eyes on me. I would actually recommend you download the Oasis project tracker just because it's a really neat, easy way to like list your projects and put everything in. Just because that's can like get your brain around your projects in a neat, organized way now, so that as these criteria changes and as we're down selecting projects and as you're moving through the modifications or the next RFP draft, you're able to really just like go through line by line of your projects and down select or keep projects that you want to use for this one, especially when we're talking about dealing with up to 15 projects being submitted. Having one place to look at those things would be really helpful. Also look at those industry certifications. Have you started CMMC? Do you have all of your ISO certs? Are your business systems evaluated? And then where is that paperwork? Who in your company has the exact file that has proof that you have these things? And then engage with your customers. If you are somebody who was a subcontractor, check in with that prime contractor and make sure that they're ready to provide a PPQ. If CPARs weren't completed, make sure that you're checking with that government employee who will provide your PPQ. So that when the RFP does drop, you've nurtured that relationship and you're able to touch base with them quickly, and you know that they're going to respond. We're happy to help with that bid or no bid decision, especially for something like this. I know that gate criteria seems like it's super easy to evaluate for yourself, and you should be able to do that. But once you get past that gate criteria, let's talk about whether this is a good opportunity for you or not, because we don't want you to spend your time and investment on something that, you're not going to be as competitive on. And so that's something that we can help you with. We can help you decide whether you want to keep looking at maps or not. We do have some awesome resources that you can check out. We have a running blog that we will update and continue to update as the government decides to change things. And we also have some free downloads for maps, so go check those out. We do owe you, I think, an update on those, so we'll get on that for us. And if maps is not the right opportunity for you, based on what you've heard today or what you anticipate for the next RFP, we do have plenty of information about Oasis Plus, which is the gold standard child right now of government contracting. Rebecca and I are hosting a Oasis Plus Ask Me Anything tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern Time, if you're an Eastern Time one, or at 12:30 Pacific Time, and some unknown time in Hawaii. Come join us. You can either send your questions in advance. You can ask us live. Please send your questions in advance. Oh, hi, Rebecca. There she is. Please.
I would love to get some questions in advance. I love a microphone, so I do have a topic prepared in case we don't get any questions, but really we want this to be valuable for you all. So it would be great if you send in what's on your mind and we can chat about it.
Yeah, and honestly, please don't edit yourself as far as your questions, because I guarantee somebody else probably has the same situation that you're facing as you're looking through your projects. So we'd love to talk to you about those. Same, if you guys have any questions about maps or Oasis, we're happy to answer them. You'll need to register just like you did for this webinar for the Oasis Plus one, and we've got a registration link there, but you can also find it on our social media, on LinkedIn, or on our website. I feel like I'm an influencer on YouTube. These are all of our subscribe, follow, and like our post places, but this is where you can contact us or ask any questions in the meantime. I will open it up to questions. I don't see anything in the Q&A, but if you guys have any questions, I'd love to hear it. It'll give us a few minutes. But I wanted to thank you, of course, while people are typing in those questions, if they have any, for joining us today. And anytime you join us for a Trident webinar, we love having the chance to talk through these complicated things with you and these complicated opportunities and try to make them a little bit more digestible. So thank you for joining us.